Maya had perfected the art of being invisible among humans for 8 years, her silver pendant suppressing every trace of her wolf's scent, until Alpha King Kai Thorne walked into her coffee shop and his golden eyes locked onto hers, with deadly recognition. The suppressants that had kept her hidden from every supernatural creature suddenly felt as useless as paper against a storm. And when he approached her table with the confidence of a predator who'd finally found his prey, she realized her carefully constructed human life was about to shatter completely. But what happens when the king discovers she's not just any hidden wolf, but the moon-blessed Luna his enemies have been hunting? The fire alarm screamed through Maya's apartment at 3 a.m. But she wasn't running from flames. She was running from the dreams that came every full moon dreams, where silver fur replaced her human skin, and golden eyes hunted her through endless forests. Her hands shook as she pressed the emergency button on her medical bracelet, flooding her system with another dose of hormone suppressors. 8 years of this routine. 8 years of pretending her heart didn't race when dogs barked too loudly, or when thunder rolled across Seattle's gray sky. Maya stumbled to her bathroom mirror, checking her reflection like she did every morning. Brown eyes stared back, ordinary, human, safe. The silver pendant around her neck felt warm against her skin, its weight both comfort and prison. Her phone buzzed, another text from Dr. Hayes at the clinic. "Monthly checkup today. Don't miss it." Maya deleted the message and grabbed her coffee mug, the one with the cartoon wolf that some cruel joke of fate had made her favorite. She didn't remember buying it, but it had appeared in her kitchen years ago, like so many things she couldn't explain. The walk to work took her through Pioneer Square, where tourists fed pigeons and street musicians played for coins. Maya kept her head down, counting steps the way her therapist had taught her. 147 steps from her building to the crosswalk, 32 more to the coffee shop where she worked 6 days a week, making drinks for people who never looked twice at the quiet girl behind the counter. "Morning, Maya," called Janet, the day manager who treated everyone like family. "You look tired, honey. Those nightmares again?" "Just couldn't sleep." Maya tied her apron and checked the espresso machine. Routine kept the strange feelings away. Steam milk, pull shots, smile at customers, repeat. Simple, human, normal. The morning rush started like every other Tuesday. Lawyers in expensive suits grabbed their usual orders without looking up from their phones. College students counted out exact change for their cheapest options. Maya served them all with the same practiced smile, the same careful distance. But at 9:15, when the morning crowd had thinned to just a few stragglers, the bell above the door chimed differently. Maya looked up from wiping the counter and felt her world tilt sideways. The man walking toward her moved like he owned the air around him, like gravity bent to his will instead of the other way around. Water dripped from his dark coat onto the shop's wooden floor, and his presence filled the small space until Maya could barely breathe. She forced herself to look away, to focus on the coffee cups that suddenly seemed too bright, too loud as they clinked together. Her pendant felt ice cold against her throat, which had never happened before. The suppressors in her system buzzed like angry wasps, working harder than they ever had. "What can I get you?" Maya asked, proud that her voice stayed steady. "Black coffee." His voice rolled through her like distant thunder, and when she finally met his eyes, her carefully constructed world cracked down the middle. They were golden. Not brown or hazel or any shade that belonged on a human face. Golden, like honey, like fire, like the eyes that chased her through her dreams every month. Maya's hand shook as she reached for a cup. The man watched every movement, and she felt hunted in a way that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with recognition. Something deep in her chest, something she'd spent 8 years keeping quiet, stirred to life. "Are you all right?" he asked, and the concern in his voice was worse than suspicion would have been. "Fine." Maya turned to the espresso machine, grateful for something to do with her hands, but she could feel him watching, could sense him breathing, could almost taste the wild storm scent that clung to his clothes. The coffee cup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. "I'm sorry," she whispered, dropping to her knees to collect the pieces. "I'm so sorry." "Don't." His hand covered hers before she could touch the broken ceramic, and the contact sent lightning up her arm. "You'll cut yourself." Maya jerked back like she'd been burned, scrambling to her feet. The man stood slowly, gracefully, never breaking eye contact. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his fingers through it. Everything about him screamed danger, but not the kind she'd been taught to fear. This was older, deeper, more inevitable. "I should clean this up," Maya said, reaching for the broom. "Leave it." His voice carried an authority that made her freeze mid-reach. "What's your name?" "Maya." The answer slipped out before she could stop it, before she could give him the fake name she used with strangers who asked too many questions. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Maya, it suits you." Something about the way he said her name made her shiver, like he was tasting it, testing how it felt on his tongue. Maya grabbed a new cup with hands that wouldn't stop trembling and poured his coffee, black as he'd ordered. When she handed it to him, their fingers brushed again, and this time she was ready for the shock of contact. Ready, but not prepared for the way her pendant grew so cold it almost burned. "That's an interesting necklace," he said, his golden eyes fixed on the silver chain around her throat. Maya's hand flew to cover it. "It was my mother's. Was she from around here?" The question was casual, but Maya heard layers underneath it, meanings she couldn't quite grasp. "She died when I was young." "I'm sorry." He sipped his coffee, still watching her with those impossible eyes. "Family is important, even when they're gone." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. The shop felt smaller with him in it, like the walls were closing in. She needed him to leave, needed the safety of routine to settle back over her like a blanket. But she also needed him to stay, needed to understand why her reflection in the coffee machine's surface looked different when he was near. "I'm Kai," he said, setting his empty cup on the counter. "I think we should talk." The silver pendant hit the wooden table with a sound like breaking chains. Maya's fingers trembled as she pushed it away from her, watching 8 years of careful hiding roll across the scratched surface like dice deciding her fate. The coffee shop around them seemed to fade as her real scent began to bloom. Wild roses mixed with mountain air, everything an Omega Wolf was meant to smell like. Kai's whole body went still. His coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. The normal sounds of the cafe, chattering customers, grinding espresso machines, rain-tapping windows, all disappeared into background noise as something ancient and powerful stirred between them. "Maya," he whispered, and her name sounded different in his voice now. Not human normal anymore. Something that made her wolf lift its head after years of sleeping. She couldn't look at him. Instead, she stared at the pendant, remembering the day her mother had given it to her. "Mom wore this when she was young. Before she met my father, she said it helped her hide from wolves who wanted to hurt her. And you've been wearing it to hide from everyone," Kai said softly, "including myself." The words came out smaller than she wanted them to. Her scent was getting stronger now, filling the space between them like invisible smoke. She saw other customers turning their heads, confused by something they couldn't name but somehow felt. Only Kai knew what they were really sensing. "I can't put it back on," Maya said, panic rising in her chest. "Once it's off, the chemicals need time to build up again. Everyone's going to smell what I really am." Kai slid his jacket off and wrapped it around her shoulders. His scent clung to the leather pine trees and thunderstorms, and something that made her feel safer than she had in years. "Then we leave. Now." But as they stood to go, the bell above the door chimed again. 3 men walked in, and Maya's blood turned to ice water. She knew those faces. Shadow Moon pack members. Their nostrils flared as her unmasked scent hit them, and their eyes went wide with recognition. "Well, well," the tallest one said, grinning like a shark. The lost little Omega finally comes out to play. Kai stepped in front of Maya, his presence suddenly feeling much larger and more dangerous. Walk away. I don't think so, King, the man replied. Our witch has been looking for this one for months. Said she's special, worth a lot of money to the right buyer. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. This was exactly what she'd been hiding from, what she'd given up her real life to avoid. Being sold like property because of what her wolf blood could do for other people's magic. Over my dead body, Kai growled, and Maya felt real power roll off him in waves that made the coffee shop's windows rattle. The Shadow Moon wolves shifted nervously, but they didn't back down. 3 against 1, Your Majesty. Even for a king, those aren't great odds. Who said anything about 1? Maya turned to see 2 more figures entering the shop. A woman with short red hair and a man built like a mountain, both moving with the same predatory grace as Kai. His pack members, they flanked the Shadow Moon wolves like bookends. Lila, Marcus, Kai said without taking his eyes off the threat, escort these gentlemen outside. Explain our territorial agreements to them. With pleasure, the red-haired woman purred. But the lead Shadow Moon wolf wasn't done. This isn't over. Our pack leader knows she's here now, knows what she is. You can't protect her forever, King. Watch me, Kai replied. The confrontation lasted only seconds, but it changed everything. As the Shadow Moon pack was herded outside by Kai's people, Maya sank back into her chair, shaking. The safety she'd built over 8 years was completely gone now. There was no going back to her quiet, hidden life. I'm sorry, she whispered. I've brought danger to you and your pack. Kai sat down across from her again, reaching for her hands. His touch was warm and steady, nothing like the cold fear running through her veins. You didn't bring anything. They did, and now we deal with it. You don't understand. Once they know what I am, they won't stop hunting me. Omega blood is powerful for spell work. My scent can be used to track other wolves. And my blood. She stopped, not ready to tell him the rest. You're what? Maya met his golden eyes, seeing kindness there instead of the greed she'd expected. My blood is different, special. It can do things that other Omega blood can't. That's why my father threw me away. That's why I've been running. Kai's grip on her hands tightened. What kind of things? Healing magic, binding spells, and... She took a shaky breath. If someone drinks it during a full moon, it can make them stronger, much stronger, strong enough to challenge any alpha and win. The silence stretched between them like a bridge she wasn't sure she wanted to cross. Finally, Kai spoke. Is that why you think I'm helping you? For your blood, isn't it? The question came out more bitter than she'd intended. Instead of answering, Kai brought her hands to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Maya, I could smell what you were the moment I walked into this place. If I wanted to use you, I would have taken you then. What I want is to keep you safe. Something warm and fragile bloomed in her chest at his words. For 8 years, no one had cared about keeping her safe. She'd been alone with her secrets and her fear, building walls around herself that no one could climb. Why? She asked. Kai smiled, and it transformed his whole face. Because you're brave enough to give up everything to stay free. Because you've survived 8 years of hiding and you're still fighting. And because, he paused, looking almost shy, because my wolf recognized yours the second I saw you, and he's never been wrong about what matters. Maya's shift ended at 2, but Kai waited. He sat in the corner booth like he belonged there, reading a newspaper but watching her every move. When Maya untied her apron and grabbed her jacket, he folded the paper and stood with the fluid grace of someone who'd never been clumsy a day in his life. I don't talk to strangers, Maya said, even though every cell in her body was screaming at her to follow him anywhere he wanted to go. Then it's lucky we're not strangers. Kai stepped closer, and Maya caught that wild scent again. Cedar trees after rain, mountain air, something indefinably untamed. You know who I am, even if you don't remember yet. I've never seen you before in my life. Kai tilted his head, studying her face like he was reading a map. Your subconscious disagrees. Your pulse jumped when I walked in. Your scent changed. And that pendant of yours is working overtime to keep you hidden. Maya's hand flew to her throat again. I don't know what you're talking about. The suppressors, Kai said quietly. How long have you been on them? The question hit Maya like a physical blow. She took 2 steps backward, bumping into a chair. I don't. 8 years? Kai guessed. Maybe longer? Someone told you they were medication for anxiety, for sleep problems, for anything except what they really are. Maya's vision blurred around the edges. She'd been taking the pills since she was 17, since the night she'd woken up in a hospital with no memory of how she'd gotten there. Dr. Hayes had explained about the hormone imbalance, the need for daily medication to keep her system stable. She'd never questioned it. You're scaring me, she whispered. Good. Kai's voice was gentle but firm. Fear means your instincts are still working. Deep down, you know something's wrong with your life. You have dreams you can't explain, reactions you can't control, a feeling like you're wearing someone else's skin. Maya stared at him, her mouth dry. Every word he'd said was true, but she'd never told anyone about the dreams, the strange moments when her reflection looked wrong, the way certain sounds made her want to run toward them instead of away. Who are you? She asked. Someone like you. Kai glanced around the coffee shop, making sure they were alone. Someone who knows what you really are under all those chemicals. I'm human, Maya said automatically. No, Kai said simply. You're not. The words hung in the air between them like a bridge Maya was afraid to cross. She'd spent 8 years building a life based on being normal, being safe, being invisible. If that was a lie, then what was left? Prove it, she heard herself say. Kai smiled that transformative smile again. Come with me. Maya knew she should say no, should run back to her apartment and take an extra dose of her medication and pretend this conversation had never happened. But her feet were already moving, following Kai out of the coffee shop and into the gray Seattle afternoon. He led her to a black truck parked 2 blocks away, opening the passenger door without asking if she wanted a ride. Maya hesitated, her hand on the doorframe. Where are we going? Somewhere you can hear yourself think, Kai said, without all the noise. Maya didn't know what noise he meant until they'd driven 20 minutes outside the city, and she realized how quiet her mind had become. The constant buzzing she'd grown used to, the background static that followed her everywhere, had faded to almost nothing. She felt lighter, clearer, more awake than she had in years. Better? Kai asked, glancing at her as he turned onto a dirt road that wound up into the mountains. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Everything looked sharper now, the colors brighter, the shadows deeper. She could smell pine trees and running water, could hear birds calling from branches she couldn't see. When had her senses become so dull? Kai parked beside a small cabin that looked like it had grown out of the forest itself. Maya followed him up wooden steps to a porch where wind chimes sang in languages she almost understood. Inside, the cabin was warm and simple. Stone fireplace, leather furniture, windows that showed nothing but trees. Sit, Kai said, gesturing to a chair near the fireplace, and listen. Maya perched on the edge of the cushion, ready to run if necessary. But as Kai built a fire and the flames began to dance, she felt her shoulders relax for the first time in years. The pendant around her neck had warmed to match her skin temperature, no longer the ice-cold weight it had been in the coffee shop. My family has been looking for you for 3 years, Kai said without turning around. A girl who disappeared from the Ravencrest pack when she was 17, the Alpha's daughter. I don't have a father, Maya said automatically. You do, and he's in trouble. Kai turned to face her, firelight casting shadows across his strong features. The Shadow Moon pack has been moving against isolated territories, absorbing smaller groups, growing stronger. Your father's pack is next on their list. Maya felt like she was listening to a story about someone else's life. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the key to stopping them. Kai sat on the coffee table facing her chair, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his eyes. You're not just any wolf, Maya. You're something special. Something they've been hunting for years. I'm not a wolf, Maya protested. But the words felt hollow even to her. Kai reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph, placing it on the table between them. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The picture showed a teenage girl with Maya's face, but longer hair, standing between two adults who looked like they could be her parents. The girl wore no pendant, no careful smile. She looked wild, free, dangerous. That's not me, Maya whispered. It's you before they made you forget. Kai's voice was soft, kind. Before someone decided you were too dangerous to remember who you were. Maya picked up the photograph with shaking hands. The girl in the picture looked nothing like the careful, quiet barista who served coffee 6 days a week. This girl looked like she could tear the world apart with her bare hands. What am I? Maya asked. Kai leaned forward, his golden eyes serious. You're a Luna, Maya. A moon-blessed wolf. And tomorrow night is the full moon. The Ravencrest pack house looked smaller than Maya remembered, but maybe that was because she'd grown up in the 8 years since she'd last seen it. Or maybe it was because half the windows were boarded up and the gardens her mother had loved were brown and dying. Second thoughts? Kai asked from the driver's seat of his black truck. Maya watched 2 wolves patrol the perimeter, their movements tired and mechanical. Just memories. She'd been 16 the night they'd driven her to the territory line and told her never to come back. Her father had stood in this same driveway, his face hard as stone, while her stepmother smiled behind him like she'd won a prize. The silver poisoning explains a lot, Kai said, following her gaze. Look at the guards. They're exhausted, probably pulling double shifts, because half the pack is too sick to function. Maya could see it now that he'd pointed it out. The wolves moved too slowly, their attention scattered. This wasn't a strong pack preparing for war. This was a dying pack trying to survive one more day. How do we get inside without being shot? She asked. We walk up to the front door and knock. Kai's calm confidence would have been reassuring if Maya couldn't smell the tension rolling off him in waves. That's your plan? You're his daughter. Even Marcus Ravencrest won't shoot his own child on sight. Kai paused. Probably. Very comforting. Maya reached for her door handle, then stopped. What if he tries to make me stay? Force me into some arranged marriage to strengthen the pack? Then I kill him myself. Kai's tone was so matter-of-fact that Maya actually believed him. They climbed out of the truck together, and immediately, Maya's enhanced senses were overwhelmed. The scent of sickness hung over everything like fog, mixed with fear and desperation, and the metallic tang of silver. Her wolf whined in her chest, recognizing the place where she'd been born, but feeling how wrong everything had become. The guard spotted them before they'd taken 10 steps. Both wolves shifted partially, letting their fangs show as they blocked the path to the house. State your business, the larger one demanded. Maya Ravencrest to see her father, Maya said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. Both guards went completely still. The smaller one, a woman Maya thought she remembered from her childhood, stared at her like she'd seen a ghost. Maya's dead, the woman whispered. Do I look dead to you, Sarah? Maya asked, remembering the name just in time. Sarah's face went white. It's really you. It's really me. Maya stepped forward, and both guards automatically moved aside. Is he inside? The alpha's in his study, Sarah said, her voice shaking. But, Maya, he's not the same. The sickness has changed him. Changed him how? Sarah and the other guard exchanged looks. You'll see, was all Sarah would say. The pack house felt like a tomb inside. Maya remembered it full of laughter and running children. the sounds of wolves calling to each other, the warm chaos of a healthy pack. Now their footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and the few pack members they passed stared at Maya like she was a walking miracle. "Word spreading," Kai murmured as they climbed the stairs to the Alpha's floor. "Half the pack will know you're here before we reach his door." Maya could feel it too, the electric buzz of shock and hope moving through the house like wildfire. It made her skin crawl with responsibility she didn't want. The study door was exactly where she remembered it, heavy oak with deep scratches from her father's wolf form. Maya raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. "What if this is a mistake?" she asked. "Then we leave," Kai said simply. "But you'll never forgive yourself if you don't try." Maya knocked. "Go away," came a voice from inside, rougher and weaker than the powerful alpha tone she remembered. "It's Maya, Dad." Silence. Then the sound of something heavy falling over, followed by footsteps moving fast across the room. The door yanked open, and Maya's breath caught. Marcus Ravencrest looked like he'd aged 20 years in 8. His hair was completely gray now, his face gaunt and marked with lines of pain, but his eyes were the same pale blue she remembered, and they stared at her with an expression she'd never seen from him before. Wonder and fear. "My God," he whispered. "You're alive." "Surprise," Maya said, aiming for sarcasm but landing somewhere closer to sadness. Her father's gaze moved to Kai, and his expression hardened. "Kai Thorne, I should have known you'd be involved." "Marcus." Kai's tone was respectful but not submissive. "We need to talk." "About what? Taking advantage of a dying alpha?" But Marcus stepped aside, letting them into the study. The room looked like a war zone. Papers covered every surface, maps with red pins marking attacks, photos of dead wolves, medical reports that made Maya's stomach turn. Her father wasn't just dying. He was drowning in the destruction of everything he'd built. "The silver poisoning," Maya said, not sure how to start. "Started 6 months ago," Marcus confirmed, sinking into his desk chair like it hurt to stand. "We think it's in the water supply, but we can't find the source." "It's not in the water," Kai said. "Someone close to you is doing it. Someone with access to your food, your drinks, your personal items." Marcus's laugh was bitter. "You think I haven't considered that? I've tested everything, suspected everyone. Whoever's doing this is too smart to get caught." Maya studied her father's face, seeing the paranoia and exhaustion eating him alive. "Who has access to your private quarters?" "My mate, my beta, the house staff." Marcus rubbed his temples. "All wolves I've trusted for years." "What about new people? Anyone who joined the pack recently?" "Just one. A healer named David who came highly recommended from the Eastwood pack." Marcus looked up sharply. "But he's the one trying to cure me." Kai and Maya exchanged looks. "Dad," Maya said carefully, "what if the cure is actually the poison?" Her father went very still. "That's impossible." "Is it? Think about it. A healer shows up right when you start getting sick. He has access to everything you eat and drink because he's treating you, and his treatments aren't working because they're not meant to." Marcus's face cycled through disbelief, understanding, and finally rage. "David, we need proof before you do anything," Kai warned. "If we're wrong." "You're not wrong." Marcus was already reaching for his phone. "Sarah, bring David to my study. Now. And Sarah, come armed." Maya's heart pounded as they waited. If they were right, they were about to confront a murderer. If they were wrong, they might have just destroyed her father's last chance at survival. "Why did you come back?" Marcus asked suddenly, his eyes on Maya's face. "After what I did to you?" Maya met his gaze, seeing her own eyes reflected in his face. "Because someone has to stop this war, and apparently that someone is me." Her father's expression shifted, becoming something she'd never seen before. Pride. "You always were stronger than I gave you credit for." Before Maya could respond, Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Sarah's voice called out, "Alpha, David's here." "Send him in," Marcus called back. The door opened, and Maya's blood turned to ice. The man who walked in wasn't just a traitor. He was her stepmother's brother, the uncle who'd whispered poison in Marcus's ear about his Omega daughter 8 years ago. And from the silver blade in his hand, he'd come prepared for this confrontation. But Maya was prepared too. The moment David raised his weapon, power exploded from her like lightning. The blade flew from his hand, embedding in the wall. Every window in the room cracked simultaneously, and David found himself pinned against the bookshelf by an invisible force that made his bones creak. "Hello, Uncle," Maya said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the wolf skulls on her father's shelves rattle. "We need to have a talk." The warehouse at the edge of town smelled like old motor oil and broken dreams. Maya crouched behind a stack of empty crates, her heart beating so loud she was sure everyone could hear it echoing off the concrete walls. Through gaps in the wood, she could see wolves gathering in the open space at the center of the building, more wolves than she'd seen together since leaving her father's pack. "There," Kai whispered beside her, pointing toward a group near the far wall. "Your father's people." Maya's breath caught in her throat. 8 years had changed Marcus Ravencrest, but she'd know her father anywhere. The silver poisoning was gone now, purged from his system, and he stood straight and strong again. He was flanked by 5 other wolves from their old pack, all of them looking determined but worried. Across from them, separated by 50 feet of empty space, stood the Shadow Moon Pack. Their leader was a woman Maya didn't recognize, tall and pale with white blonde hair that seemed to glow in the dim warehouse light. Next to her was the witch they'd heard about, a small woman with strange purple eyes who kept sniffing the air like she was hunting something. "The Shadow Moon Alpha is called Silver," Kai murmured. "She took over the pack 5 years ago when she killed the old leader. The witch is her sister, Vera. They're both completely insane." Maya watched as more wolves filtered into the space. Some she didn't recognize at all, probably neutral pack members here to witness whatever was about to happen. In the supernatural world, big confrontations like this needed witnesses to make them official. "I still don't understand why they called this meeting," Maya said. "Because they want to make their demands public. Force your father to choose between his pack safety and giving you up." Kai's voice was grim. If he says yes in front of witnesses, no one can help him later. If he says no, they attack his territory with everyone's blessing. A sick feeling settled in Maya's stomach. Either way, people were going to get hurt because of her. Silva raised her hand, and the warehouse fell silent. "We're all here for the same reason," she called out, her voice carrying easily across the space. "The Ravencrest pack is harboring a fugitive, an Omega with blood that belongs to my family." "Lies," Marcus snarled back. "My daughter has been dead to me for 8 years. The witch Vera laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Dead? Oh, she's very much alive. I can smell her from here." Maya's blood turned to ice. That was impossible. She was too far away, hidden behind too much wood and metal. But as the witch's purple eyes scanned the warehouse, Maya felt like a mouse being hunted by a snake. "She's here right now," Vera continued, taking a step forward. "Hiding like the coward she's always been. But she can't hide from me anymore. Even if she was here," Marcus said, "I wouldn't hand over my own blood to murderers like you." Maya's heart almost stopped. Her father, who had thrown her out, who had let his pack hunt her to the city limits, was defending her. After everything that had happened between them, he was still willing to fight for her. "Then you've chosen war," Silver replied coldly. That's when Kai stood up. Maya grabbed for his arm, trying to pull him back down, but he was already moving. He walked out into the open area with his hands relaxed at his sides, every step radiating the kind of confidence that made other wolves step back automatically. "There's another option," he said, his voice filling the warehouse like a bell. Silver's eyes narrowed. "King Thorn, this doesn't concern you. Actually, It does. Kai stopped in the exact center of the space, equidistant from both packs. See? The Omega you're looking for? She's under my protection now. The warehouse erupted in shocked whispers and growls. Maya felt like she might throw up. What was he doing? This wasn't the plan they talked about. He was supposed to stay hidden, keep his pack out of danger. Your protection means nothing here, Silver snarled. This is a family matter. No, said a new voice. This is a pack matter. Maya turned to see her father walking forward, his eyes fixed on Kai. You claim to protect my daughter, King, but where were you 8 years ago when she needed protection from me? The question hung in the air like smoke. Maya watched Kai's face, wondering how he would answer. How could he explain that 8 years ago, he'd been just another alpha who didn't care about one lost Omega girl? 8 years ago, I was an idiot, Kai said simply. I was so busy protecting my own territory that I ignored what was happening in yours. That was wrong, but I can't change the past. I can only try to do better now. Marcus studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he nodded. Fair enough. He turned toward the Shadow Moon pack. You want my daughter? You'll have to go through both our packs to get her. Gladly, Silver smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp to be entirely human. That's when the witch raised her hands, and purple light began to dance around her fingers. Enough talking. I'll drag the little Omega out myself. The spell hit the warehouse like a physical wave. Maya felt it wash over her hiding place, searching, probing, trying to pull her out into the open. She pressed herself harder against the crates, fighting against magic that felt like invisible hands grabbing at her clothes and hair. Found you, Vera whispered, and suddenly Maya was being dragged forward by forces she couldn't see or fight. She stumbled into the open space in front of everyone, her body moving against her will. All the wolves turned to stare at her, her father's pack with shock and relief, the neutral witnesses with curiosity, and the Shadow Moon pack with hunger. There she is, Silver purred, the little Omega who's caused so much trouble. Maya tried to speak, tried to move, but the witch's spell held her frozen like a statue. She could only watch as Silver approached, circling her like a shark that had finally cornered its prey. 8 years of running, Silver said, reaching out to touch Maya's face. 8 years of hiding what you really are. But you can't hide anymore, can you? That's when Maya smelled at something wrong with Silver's scent. Something that didn't belong to any normal wolf. Her eyes widened as she realized what it meant. You're not just after my blood, Maya whispered, finally finding her voice. You've already been using Omega blood. That's how you got strong enough to kill your old alpha. Silver's smile widened. Very good. Yes, I've had a taste. But your blood is different, special. With it, I won't just be the strongest alpha in one pack, I'll be unstoppable. The warehouse fell silent except for the sound of Maya's heartbeat in her ears. Everyone was staring at her now, waiting to see what would happen next. But Maya wasn't the same scared girl who had run away 8 years ago. She'd survived on her own. She'd learned to be strong, and she was done being afraid. You want my blood so badly, Maya said, feeling her wolf stirring inside her chest for the first time in years. Come and take it. The witch's scream split the night air like breaking glass. Maya felt power rushing through her body like lightning, making her skin burn and her bones ache. She had never felt anything like this before. 8 years of hiding had kept this strength locked away, but now it was breaking free, like water through a broken dam. Silver took 3 steps back, her yellow eyes wide with fear. Impossible, she whispered. Omegas don't carry moon magic. She's not just an Omega, Marcus said, his voice shaking. She's what the old stories talked about, a Luna. Maya could feel every wolf in the warehouse staring at her. Their fear mixed with wonder, creating a thick tension in the air. Kai moved closer to her side, but even he seemed awed by what she had become. The prophecy, Vera gasped, backing away slowly. The silver wolf, who would unite or destroy all packs. We thought it was just a legend. Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. She had heard those stories as a child, whispered around campfires when the adults thought the children were sleeping, but she never imagined they were about her. What prophecy? She asked, surprised by how strong her voice sounded. The witch pointed a shaking finger at her. When the moon bleeds silver and the lost daughter returns, she will either bring peace to all wolves or watch them burn. The choice will be hers alone. Above them, clouds moved away from the full moon. Its light fell on Maya like a spotlight, making her skin glow with an inner fire. She could feel the pull of every wolf pack for hundreds of miles. Their emotions hit her like waves. Fear, hope, anger, desperation. I can feel them, she said softly. All of them. Every pack, every lone wolf. They're all connected to me somehow. Kai reached for her hand, but stopped when he saw the silver light dancing around her fingers. Maya, you need to stay calm. This much power can be dangerous. Silver laughed, but it sounded forced and scared. Dangerous? She's going to destroy us all. That's what Lunas do. That's why we killed the last one 300 years ago. Maya's anger flared, and every window in the warehouse cracked at once. The sound echoed like gunshots, making everyone duck for cover. She was tired of being told what she was supposed to do, tired of others deciding her fate. Maybe the last Luna was destroyed because wolves like you gave her no choice, she said, her voice carrying power that made Silver's ears flatten against her head. But I'm not her, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. Vera started chanting in a language Maya didn't recognize. Dark magic swirled around her fingers like smoke, reaching toward Maya with hungry tendrils. But when the magic touched the silver light surrounding Maya, it simply melted away like ice in summer. Your magic can't touch me, Maya realized. None of it can. Her father stepped forward, and for the first time in 8 years, he looked at her with something other than disappointment. Maya, I was wrong about you. I was wrong about everything. Can you forgive me? Maya felt tears burning her eyes. Part of her wanted to run to him, to be his little girl again. But another part remembered the night he had let his pack chase her away. Remembered 8 years of believing she was worthless. I don't know, she said honestly, but I'm willing to try. Silver snarled and shifted into her wolf form, a massive white beast with red eyes. She lunged toward Maya, but Kai intercepted her, changing into his own wolf mid-leap. The two alphas crashed together with a sound like thunder. Maya watched them fight, but she felt strangely calm. She could end this battle with a thought, could force both wolves to submit to her will. The power sang in her veins, tempting her to use it. Don't, her father said quietly, as if reading her mind. The moment you control us, instead of leading us, you become what they fear. Maya looked at him, surprised. How did you know what I was thinking? Because I felt the same temptation when I first became alpha. Power corrupts, daughter, but wisdom guides. On the ground, Kai and Silver rolled and snapped at each other, both bleeding from deep cuts. Maya realized she had to make a choice. She could use her power to end this fight and probably start a war, or she could find another way. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, touching both fighting wolves gently, not controlling them, just suggesting, showing them a different path. Both wolves stopped fighting and looked at her. In their eyes, she saw understanding dawn like sunrise. Maya stood between the two packs, silver light still dancing around her skin like captured moonbeams. The warehouse had fallen completely silent, every wolf watching her with a mixture of fear, hope, and desperate need. She could feel their emotions pressing against her mind, centuries of anger, betrayal, and loss that had driven them to this moment. You're all afraid, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the space. Every single one of you. You're afraid of being weak, afraid of being controlled, afraid of losing what little you have left. Silver, still in her wolf form, whined softly. The sound was so unlike the vicious alpha she'd been moments before that several wolves took startled steps backward. But fear is what brought us here, Maya continued, walking slowly through the space between the packs. Fear made my father cast me out. Fear made the shadow moons hunt Omega blood for power. Fear has been tearing our people apart for generations. She stopped in front of Vera, the witch who had tried to capture her. You're not evil, Maya said gently. You're terrified. Terrified that without power, your pack will be destroyed. That you'll lose your sister, your home, everything you've built. Vera's purple eyes filled with tears. We've lost so much already, she whispered. The old pack leaders killed our parents, drove us out into the cold. Silver and I only had each other. I couldn't let her be weak. And you, Maya said, turning to her father, you were afraid of me because I was different. Because you couldn't control what I might become. Marcus nodded slowly. I thought if I could make you smaller, quieter, more like the other Omegas, you'd be safe. But all I did was teach you to be afraid of yourself. Maya felt the weight of every mistake, every moment of fear that had led them here. But she also felt something else potential, the possibility for something better. I could force you all to get along, she said, raising her hands and letting more silver light spill between her fingers. I could make you forget your anger, compel you to work together. It would be easy. Several wolves stepped back, their eyes wide. They could feel the power radiating from her, could sense that she was telling the truth. But that wouldn't be unity, Maya continued. That would just be control, and fear would still be there underneath, waiting to break free. She let the light fade, dimming until she looked almost human again. So instead, I'm going to offer you a choice. All of you. Kai, who had shifted back to human form, moved to stand beside her. His golden eyes were filled with pride and something deeper love, Maya realized with a start. He loved her not for her power, but for her strength in choosing not to use it. The Shadow Moon Pack can return to their territory, Maya said, looking directly at Silver, who had also shifted back. No one will hunt you for what you've done. No one will force you to change. Silver's face was streaked with tears she didn't seem aware of shedding. And in return, you stop hunting other Omegas. You stop using blood magic to gain power. And if you ever want to learn a different way to be strong, our door is open. Maya turned to the neutral packs who had come to witness. Anyone who wants to join us can. Anyone who wants to stay independent can do that too. But we're going to try something new. A coalition built on choice, not fear. She looked at her father last. And you have a choice too, Dad. You can rebuild your pack the way you always have, or you can let me help you find a better way. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked forward and knelt in front of his daughter, not in submission, but in respect. I choose to learn, he said simply. The warehouse erupted in voices as wolves from different packs began talking to each other, some arguing, some asking questions, some already making plans. It wasn't immediate peace. Maya hadn't expected that, but it was a beginning. Silver approached her slowly, her face uncertain. Why? She asked. Why give us a choice when you could have just taken what you wanted? Maya smiled. Because choice is the only thing that lasts. Everything else just creates more fear. As the sun began to rise through the warehouse windows, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in 8 years. Not just safety, but hope. The path ahead would be difficult, full of setbacks and challenges. Some wolves would choose the old ways. Some would be suspicious of change. But for the first time since she'd run away as a scared teenager, Maya believed that things could actually get better. 6 months later, Maya stood on the porch of the rebuilt pack house, watching the sun rise over what had once been enemy territory. The building behind her buzzed with activity. Wolves from 5 different packs working together to prepare breakfast, plan patrols, and teach their children songs that had been forbidden for generations. Kai wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Regrets?" he asked softly. Maya leaned back against his warmth, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her spine. Only that it took so long to get here. In the yard below, she could see her father teaching a group of young wolves how to track without aggression. His hair was silver now, but his eyes were brighter than she'd ever seen them. Beside him, Silver's sister Vera demonstrated how to use protective magic instead of attack spells. "The Denver pack sent another messenger," Kai said, his breath warm against her ear. "They want to join the coalition." Maya nodded, unsurprised. Word had been spreading for months about the packlands where wolves lived without fear, where strength came from unity instead of dominance. It wasn't perfect. There had been fights, disagreements, wolves who couldn't adapt to the new way. But it was working. "And Silver?" Maya asked. Kai smiled. "She's in the kitchen arguing with Marcus about the best way to prepare rabbit. I think she's actually enjoying not having to be the strongest person in the room all the time." Maya laughed. Silver's transformation had been the most dramatic of all. Without the constant pressure of maintaining dominance through fear, the former Shadow Moon Alpha had revealed a sharp wit and surprising gentleness. She still struggled sometimes, still had moments where her old instincts took over, but she was learning. "Speaking of which," Kai said, turning Maya to face him. His golden eyes were serious but warm. "There's something I want to ask you." Maya's heart skipped. Over the past 6 months, what had started as protection had grown into something deeper. They'd been through battles together, built something new together, learned to trust each other with their darkest fears and brightest hopes. "Maya Ravencrest," Kai said, dropping to one knee right there on the porch. "Luna of the Western Territories, woman who chose love over fear, will you marry me?" The ring he held was simple silver, carved with symbols that meant pack, choice, and forever. Maya stared at it, then at him, feeling her heart so full she thought it might burst. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." As Kai slipped the ring onto her finger, Maya heard cheering from inside the house. Apparently, their conversation hadn't been as private as they'd thought. Wolves began streaming out onto the porch, whooping and howling their approval. Her father was among them, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. And Maya realized those were the words she'd been waiting 8 years to hear. As the celebration continued around them, Maya looked out over the territory she'd helped build. Children played in yards that had once been battlefields. Former enemies shared meals and stories. Wolves who had been hiding for years walked freely in the sunlight. It wasn't the ending she'd imagined when she first ran away, scared and alone. It was better. That night, as the full moon rose over the pack lands, Maya stood in the center of the main hall, surrounded by her chosen family. Kai held her hand, his thumb stroking over the engagement ring. Her father stood on her right, Silver on her left. Vera and the other pack leaders formed a circle around them. "Luna," her father said formally, "what is your choice for our people?" Maya looked around the circle, meeting each pair of eyes. Some were still uncertain, still learning to trust. Others blazed with hope for the future. All of them were here by choice, not force. "I choose courage over fear," Maya said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "I choose growth over stagnation. I choose love over power." She raised her joined hands with Kai, silver light dancing around their intertwined fingers. "And I choose all of you not as subjects, but as family." The howls that rose in response shook the rafters and carried across the night sky, calling to lone wolves everywhere that there was a place for them if they chose to come home. As the sound faded, Maya felt the last of her old fears slip away. She was no longer the scared girl who had run into the night 8 years ago. She was no longer the hidden barista serving coffee to people who never really saw her. She was Maya Thorne soon to be, anyway. Luna, leader, bridge builder, between worlds that had been divided too long. And for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she belonged. The wedding took place on the summer solstice, when the days were longest and the packlands were green and golden with wildflowers. Maya wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit but still carrying the scent of wild roses and hope. The ceremony was held in the meadow where children from 12 different packs now played together every day. As Kai kissed his bride under an arch of woven branches, wolves howled their approval from the surrounding hills. The sound carried for miles, reaching the ears of lone wolves, still hiding in cities, still afraid to come home. But they were starting to trickle in, one by one. Word had spread through the supernatural underground about the Luna who ruled with love instead of fear, about packlands where strength came from unity and where no one had to hide what they were. Maya and Kai's first child was born 2 years later, a daughter with Kai's golden eyes and Maya's stubborn chin. She was followed by twin sons who shifted into wolf pups before they could walk, much to their parents' amused exasperation. The coalition continued to grow. By the 5th year, 23 packs had joined, stretching from the Canadian border to the Mexican desert. There were still conflicts, still wolves who chose the old ways of fear and dominance, but they were outnumbered now by those who had learned there was a better path. On quiet evenings, Maya would sometimes stand on the porch of the house she shared with Kai and their children, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of hope. The silver pendant that had hidden her for so long hung now in a place of honor on the mantelpiece, a reminder of the girl she'd been and the woman she'd become. She was Luna, leader of the largest pack coalition in North American history. She was wife to the Alpha King and mother to 3 remarkable children. She was the bridge between old and new, fear and hope, hiding and standing in the light. But most importantly, she was free. And in a world where wolves had hidden in shadows for too long, freedom was the most radical choice of all.